I'm Sir Flowbojan Thunderhammer.
And I'm Teflon Frosthammer.
And I'm Cabbage Tidehammer.
And this
is
WAK.
If Amtgard knighthood means anything, you can't knife a motherfucker and keep it.
And the thing that people need to understand essentially about arts and sciences events is that your scores don't matter.
I'm very proud of it.
I like it.
Do you want a black phoenix or a white phoenix?
It's an average size Coke.
Jeez, language, man. We're
Yeah,
on
right.
a freaking podcast, for fuck's sake.
Mind-blowing experience, right?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to WAK, where we discuss topics important to the Amtgard community at large and talk with interesting people from around the foam fighting world. I had a big drink of Coke before I said that.
Or we just
I can have like syrup taste stuck in my mouth. This is horrible.
Phoenix
And-
League!
Here's a gummy bear.
Yeah, no.
Oh, no?
Disgustingly professional.
Disgustingly.
Disgusting, anyways. So, our kingdom, the Kingdom of Winter's Edge, is going to be doing a little Phoenix League tournament. We're pretty new to this. The kingdom's done some Phoenix League stuff before. At this last event, we did one the first night that ended up working out really well. And we thought that there are other kingdoms out there that may be not as familiar with Phoenix League as our kingdom is. You know, they've heard of it. They might have played
Or
it a couple of
hesitant.
times. Or hesitant. I will tell you that I think that it worked out great. Normally, we do a Friday night Ironman. This was an excellent replacement. The audience was able to get into it. The people on the field were having a whole lot of fun. So
Jeff fell on his face.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we wanted
Enshrined
to-
on film, too.
It is. We wanted to round up some experts. Unfortunately, we couldn't find any. So instead, we got Hogman, Godric, and Air. Thank you so much for joining the show.
What is up? Thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah.
Glad to be here.
And so they stomped everyone at our little get-together. And my understanding is that your team, in some form or another, has been together for a little while now. Is that correct?
Aaron and I have been playing together since, I guess, the first season of the Ohio Phoenix League. We had 3 or 4 seasons up there that we had played together, and then Nate and Josh are in a separate fight company, and so occasionally our teams would cross paths.
Okay, so let's start with some of the basics, right? And we're gonna peel back to something that I think most people are already going to understand, but just in case you don't, if we have any newer Amtgarders listening, I know what battle gaming is because I have looked over parts of the rule book that I cared about. Tell me what Phoenix League is.
All right. Well, I think I'll take that. Phoenix League is the answer to the question of what if we did jugging, which is a fast-paced, kind of aggressive, very competitive game style, and did it in the Amtgard class system.
Okay.
And
I like
so, yeah, it's the difference you're going to find in it than any other battle game is it's arena based as well, which means that there can be a big open arena, or there can be terrain of walls, hallways, things that you can or can't move through. Generally, in a battle game, you can move around the field freely, whereas this is very contained and there is kind of no escape. So you're in there to either make it or break it,
I would imagine that changes the strategies of certain classes as well, just because of the constraints.
Absolutely. Everything changes. It gets spun on a head, and it's wild.
3 questions that spawn from that. We've mentioned that it's a limited area. What is the size of the field for Phoenix League?
Small. I don't know the specifics, but
I think it's like 120 by something.
No, it's 60 by 80, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
60 by
Good
80.
Yeah.
Lord.
So
Really?
a little bit smaller than a jugging field. Can probably be played on any field about that size, but if we're looking strictly at the rules for it, and we will post the rules for Phoenix League down in the comments here. So second question that was asked is, because this is smaller, you obviously can't have like 15 people on this field that is 80 by 60. So are we talking about team sizes here? What do they look like?
Team sizes are traditionally 6 players per team, with 4 on the field and 2 on the bench. And the bench is a concept that is new to most battle gamers. It is essentially like a hockey game or a soccer game. you are there to come in when your teammate dies or decides to come back to the bench and you go on.
As
or
soon
whenever
as my
someone
team...
touches your goalie.
or whenever someone touches your goalie. That's right. As soon as your teammate dies, so like they get killed and they're still walking off field, you can immediately come in?
You can immediately come in. Yes.
As long as, but you still have a death timer. So when you die, you step off the field and start your death count. And when your death count is finished, you can then hop in whenever one of your teammates dies.
Okay, so you could end up. Let me ask my third question, and then we'll come back to that point too, because I think Cabbage had a question he wanted to ask you. Third thing here is, so we have a sized field. We have 6 people on there. I watched some of the videos before this started, and I noticed that the teams were numbered. So, like, people actually had belt flags with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Talk to me about what that is.
Sure. Well, you're going to see a lot of fast casting, and in order to facilitate that, we had numbers to denote who a player was, just so you could say number 1, by command the odd. And it started out, people pick their own numbers, but it's probably best if teams just stick through 1 through 6, and you wear a number on the front of yourself and the back of your person, and as a belt flag, and then that's what that could be a what do they call it? The ability to target someone. You could use that as a signifier of that person by just calling their number instead of having to memorize their name.
Yeah, or instead of saying warrior or something like that when the team might have. Are you limited on classes? Could we have 2, 3, 4 warriors on the field at once?
We have played with no limits. I think in the official rules, the only limit that exists is something about you're only allowed to have, I think, 6 instances of pro magic and 6 instances of naturalized magic or something like that, just so you can't absolutely break the game. But
what's the most chaotic team comp within those rules? What could we field 6 of that would just be
barbarians?
Yeah,
barbarians.
Yeah, the fight after death.
Is barbarians always the answer to the most chaotic? Insert thing after.
I mean,
Vidalia, you and I got this.
God.
Most chaotic would probably be 4 casters yelling at the same person at once.
Yeah, that's true.
You only need 2, 1 to freeze them, 1 to shatter them, or something.
So interesting thing about Phoenix League, the game does not lend itself well to killing your opponent.
Yeah,
it is very much. It's a lot better to control them than it is to kill them, because there's a replacement sitting there waiting to hop out on the field as soon as they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, control, ice ball, ice magic, anything that keeps them in place. Choice.
So we mentioned those field dimensions. What happens if I step outside of them? Because this strikes me kind of as like some of the decision making you do with jugging, right? Where you step out instead of taking a death. What happens if you step out in Phoenix League?
Gone.
Beans.
Oh
yeah. That's it.
It's not like jugging where you're stunned for 5 seconds or something like that. It's just that
might be one
dead.
of the regional things too. I'm not.
It goes dark pretty quick, instantaneous.
So for all intents and purposes, you are on a floating platform high above the ground. If you step off, you have fallen to your death.
Correct.
Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this is another thing that I wanted to ask you too. When we played this last game, we had Circazon has. I've always called them pigtails, but they're the little fence stands like farmers will use that have the curlicue on top.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran the rope all the way around there. My understanding, this raises the field, the limits for the field up off the ground by about, let's call it 2.5 feet. My understanding is that a lot of times the field is just a rope on the ground, and that because everything is done in 20-foot increments, people will do different colored rope. So do you think that the game runs better? I'm asking more of like, I'm putting together a kit so that I can try this out at my park. Do you think that the game runs better when there's just rope on the ground rather than having it raised up?
I would say it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same either way. If for your training purposes you would like to use different color, we've seen much like soccer field is lined. We've seen lines like that every 20 feet. just so you can tell, oh, this person is definitely within range because there's a visual reference on the ground.
Yeah.
So there's no question there. But typically, it is designed. The field size is designed so that you cannot come out and immediately cast at someone.
Right.
With an extension, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
50 feet is not live until you at least come, I think, 3/4 of the way across the field.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're able to extension, ambulant, whatever, and chase your person down.
So, how do in jugging, which is I'm going to go back to
we
that 'cause
haven't
it's the
asked the most
closest-
important question, and it is going to kill me. How do you score in Phoenix League?
That's what I was about to ask.
Okay.
In jugging, you the object is to put the dog skull on the post. How do I score in Phoenix League?
Well, it's much the same way. There's going to be a game ball in the center of the field.
A Phoenix egg.
A Phoenix egg, yes.
Yeah.
And the goals that are considered Phoenix nests. You're returning the egg to the nest. The best way to do that is to never pick up the ball.
Yeah. You can tell when it's a new team or a
I
new
don't
new group of people who are trying to play like an objective-based movable ball game if they immediately run to the thing you put your hands on.
Well,
Correct.
Eric, explain that volatile, because that's like
Right. Well, this
that's
is the
whole
reason.
thing, yeah.
Yeah. So once you pick up that ball, you pick up a state called volatile. And we have played in the past a much stricter version of volatile. But essentially, volatile is if anything is directed at you, you die. If an ice ball hits my shield and I'm a barbarian, I'm dead.
Right. If you block a shot, you are dead.
You are dead. You can still throw shots, but if they, block strike you back, you're dead. So you need to get that ball into that enemy team's goal and not die and not suffer those consequences. And it's typically 1 second after you've let go of that ball, you are still volatile. So traditionally people would say no longer volatile. And once you've said that, you are in fact no longer volatile. So you could drop the ball or you could put it in the goal and say no longer volatile. You're not allowed to throw it. You're not allowed to let it move horizontally in any way. It just has to,
No
go straight
kicking
to
it.
the ground.
No
kicking, no throwing it at
no
players.
laterals.
Okay.
No.
Is there an atomic clock system where, like, let's say I've got the ball, I'm standing over the bucket, the Phoenix nest, whatever. I get hit and drop the ball, and it falls in. Does that count? Is it out? What about if I drop the ball and then get hit? Like I am dropping the ball to score, someone comes in within that 1 second window. How does that play?
Right. Since you are still volatile, that score would not count. We have since created a faster play rule where that would count, but traditionally, officially, that score would not count.
Okay. And so for the purposes of what we're doing at Winter's Edge, is this going to use traditional or faster play ruled?
So I had announced that we were using the rules in the official rules of play for the sake of simplicity, so that all of the people in the kingdom could see what the real rules are like, and we could move into more of the, hey, this is what all of the experienced people are doing because it just works better after that. But I wanted people to be able to read everything in that book and then go by that book. That was my thought process.
Yeah. So essentially you have to score, like drop the ball, stand up, no longer volatile. If you get hit at any point in that time, the score doesn't count. Like it resets. And so you have to, like, it is better, like they were saying, to CC the entire field rather than try and pick it up and run it in and slide in. And there are also some penalties if you knock the bucket over. Like there are some other penalties there that keep you from, just bull rushing the thing as quick as you can.
Now, when you say penalties, are we talking like football penalties, like move the ball closer to the other team, or like what are we talking?
We're talking if you get warnings and then eventually it gets to the point where, like, the next point you only get to play with 3 people on the field instead of 4. Like there are legit penalties for the next.
You.
I like this. No, I like this because I mean it makes a lot of sense. You can't really do 5 yards or whatever. That's a significant portion of the field.
Yeah,
right?
and giving control of the ball to the
We're
other side.
We're penalizing you one
almost a
person
penalty
for
itself.
giving the bucket the business.
Giving him the business. Yeah.
Okay, so one more question, and just about the setup, and then I kind of want to get into some of the more in-depth stuff about Phoenix League with all of you. And that is just that. So we've mentioned that there are rules on how this scoring with the bucket is going to work, and there's just a volatile state as it works throughout the thing. What is a good number of reeves to have for a game?
Sure. That's a great question.
Teflon is sunburned, if anyone's curious.
I would not recommend playing this game without at least 5 reeves. It can be done with less at a park level, and it runs fine. But if you're doing it in a tournament setting, you want a reeve for each bucket, and that's their sole goal, is to watch the bucket. They will be the ones that will determine if that score was legal or not, because they'll be watching that player who scored it. They'll also be watching for bucket tipping and stuff like that. Then you'll have 2 reeves for each bench, and they're keeping track of death timers and also making sure that they never go over 4 players on the field at any time. That will incur a penalty. And then you would like a head reeve who is basically watching over the whole game and filling in where the other reeves need help.
Okay.
And of course you could scale up from there and have a shadow head reeve and so on. But
so Winter's Edge is looking for 5 reeves.
Hey, we have some reeves, but seriously, if you want to come read this, okay, so that gives, I think, a really good base of how the game is set up. You're going to have 2 teams, up to 6 players per team. It is best to have numbers, though you don't have to do a belt flag. I've seen some people that just made a literal pillowcase with a head hole cut in it that had number 1 written on it. You wear your sash over that, right?
I feel like some quick identifier should be.
Yeah. The idea here, as multiple people have stated, is just that I don't have to learn Godric's name. I don't have to learn Hogman's name. I can just say, instead of targeting air, I can say number 3 or Bard or whatever. So some kind of quick identifier in the form of numbers are best if you can have them, but don't have to have them for a first playthrough at your local park. Field's going to be 60 by 80.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Field's going to be 60 by 80 unless we're wrong, in which case you should comment below and let us know. Best to have 5 reeves. Don't need it when you're learning. But if you were wanting to do something a little fancier, then 5 would be great. And especially if you're going to be able to get multiple teams together, see if someone on one of the other teams is willing. Have each team donate a reeve when they're not on the field. I think that's a good way to get some reeves while you're there as well, especially if your kingdom is just now learning this, which was kind of the context that this explanation was. So let's say that we've been able to get all of that now. I want to learn a little bit more about the game. Every single game like this has a meta. So walk me through some of the key points of the metas for Phoenix League.
What is the least viable class?
Assassin.
Healer
maybe.
is very bad, and Archer is very bad.
Archer, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Healers? My poor healers is
actually,
not good?
I think I'd put Archer below Healer because Healer comes with inbuilt CC,
Is this
whereas
just because
Archer has just pinning arrow.
Is this just because bows don't have enough CC, or is it just bows are not good in general? What are we?
It's the mechanics of how Archer is played. You have to have a spell component that is a full size arrow. So you have a 36-inch spell component. So if I want to shoot somebody in the leg with a poison arrow and I have a pinning arrow loaded, I can't. Okay. Yeah, there's nothing on the fly, and Phoenix League is too fast for how slow Archer plays.
Is this true for any class that can use a bow? Like Scout is just as...
No, because everything else doesn't have, their magic is not attached to their arrows.
Ah, okay.
Okay, and with archery in general in this, because you're working in an abridged field, do you run into problems of full drawing too?
I don't.
I haven't.
Okay. I didn't know
No.
if that was a thing where it's like, that guy full drawed at 5 paces. Let's
Well, and
scrape
I'll-
this person up off the field and keep playing.
I'll be honest with you, there aren't a whole lot of archers. Amtgard in general tends to be more snipers, like take your time, load one shot. We're going to spend 30 seconds aiming.
Oh, that's boring.
And so they're just people will walk on the field and they'll play that one round and then they hate it and don't play it anymore. It takes someone like Dyer, who is just very quick and can get multiple shots off very quickly, for archery to even be viable. Most archers in Phoenix League, in my experience, I have not been impressed with.
Okay.
Fair.
Oh, bowman, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Not archer class, but bowman.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. So let's do this, because this might be an easier way to do it. Magic classes in Phoenix League. We have 4 that we're dealing with. What are strengths and weaknesses of the magic classes? Let's start with healer, because apparently it sucks and it's one of my favorite classes. I'm sad now.
Okay.
I'll say healer has a place. Some of the high-end teams will run healer to play warder, and they essentially will get one enchantment off and then they step off the field and let someone else come on. So like there is some utility in healer, but you have to have a very specific game plan around it. And that player has to be a very unselfish player who knows their role. Because they're coming in to, get a persistent pro mag off, and then they're stepping off and letting someone who's better come on the field.
Yeah, it's like spending most of your budget cap on a place kicker, right? Like,
Hey, listen.
Yeah. No,
I realize that Green Bay is not a great team anymore. You don't have to keep rubbing it in.
Okay, but I will.
The downside with healer though is heal and resurrect, which are their main things, just take so long unless you're going to swift them, and you only get so many swifts. And this game is such a fast-paced game, you will almost never have time to get a full heal spell off. And so the power balance of healer just isn't fantastic most of the time.
Healer does so much better with more people on the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're only ever on the field with 3, and you're talking about the healer and your 3 teammates. And so if you take a shot to the leg or whatever, and you need that heal spell, now literally half your team is dealing with that one injury, right? So you could have 3 people playing the game and pressing and doing whatever they need, and then you have the one person with a missing arm, or you could have half your team up, with the healer trying to deal with this one injury. When you have an entire teammate sitting on the bench ready to come if you die.
Yeah. And before we get too far into talking about these classes too, I want to point out, if it wasn't already clear, we are talking about this meta at an extremely high level.
Oh,
this
yeah.
Is,
Sorry.
This is, I love this, but for someone else like me whose healer is their favorite class, do not listen to this and go, well, I guess I can't play healer.
Well,
play what you want to play. Yeah.
Right. Yep. So what do you do to make healer viable? You become a warder, and you understand that's your role, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking to play at a super high level, then there's ways that you can do it. At your local park, none of this is going to matter.
That is correct.
Just go play whatever you find fun. What we're listening to make a comparison here would be, a team that is in, the top 4 in March Madness. We're looking at a team that has performed at a very high level on a national stage before with our 3 guests today. So as we're going through and talking about this stuff, keep all of that in mind, that these opinions are based on facing other teams that are also at this very, very high level. So healer sucks. Bard, there's quite a bit of control magic there. I consider Bards the blue mages of Amp-Guard. So talk to me about Bard in Phoenix League.
I guess that's me. I think
Yeah.
I think I'd love to do that. Bard was the answer for me specifically. When we were playing this, Paladin and Anti-Paladin were not opened up. And my team needed a way to sort of work around and create that presence on the field of a Paladin or an Anti-Paladin without having that class available to us. And so Bard was great for that. I could make myself immune to command. I could wear 2 points of armor. I had all sorts of CC. It just fit that niche, and I was able to, do so much CC that it just shadowed everything else in comparison. What Bard lacks in is, well, we all know they don't have spell balls, so they're purely verbal. So they can 100% be countered by Enlightened Soul, monks, even paladins. Paladins are
armor.
Are the
You
worst.
still kind of win on monks anyway.
kind of, yes.
They can be muted. You can shut down their verbals too with
break cons or
Suppression.
something like that.
yeah. Thank you, suppression.
You're welcome. There's a lot they can do, but they're also very pigeonholed into just, hey, I do command school stuff.
Yeah.
And you took immunity to that? Well, I'm just gonna go over here and cry.
I'm gonna tag one of my the barbarian teammate in that's been sitting on the bench frothing at the mouth.
Joke's on you. I packed 90 shoves. Go away.
It is very much a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
because it can be a frontline fighter and it can also be a support caster. So it takes a higher skill level to really make it shine. But yeah, it's a good class. I would consider it good for Phoenix League, but definitely not the best caster.
Third best, would you say?
Third best. Yes,
So-
I would agree with that.
So Godric, when is your S tier, your list tier for all classes for Phoenix League going to come out? Is it the next week that we'll go ahead and do that?
The hard part for that is it really depends on your team,
Yeah.
because like if you go look at Stack Deck, for instance, they will run very good strategies that are very different from each other based on the personnel that they get to show up that game.
That's
And
fair.
so there is an overarching meta, right? We can say healers are really, really bad, but Stack Deck won the world or the national championship with a healer on their team, right? And so it really comes down to the plan and the strategy and what your people are good at. If you have someone who is just, a top 5 whatever in the game or in your state or in your kingdom, play it, because there is a way you can make it work if the rest of the team is on board with making it work.
So I don't want to go through every single one of the classes one at a time, but I did want to do the 4 magic classes because I think that those are 4 that really, really stand out, especially when we're talking about a fast-paced game like this.
Well, also, like, some of the builds that you would use on an open field are not going to work flat out on a condensed field.
So we will move to the next magic class, which is going to be Wizard.
Okay, we need to purposefully leave out a magic class so people do comment below and get mad about it. Our engagement will go through the roof.
I'll take Wizard if you want to take Druid, Dyer.
Sure.
I think Wizard is probably the best caster for Phoenix League. Dyer might disagree with me on that one, but I think the Battle Mage Icy Blast builds with just a ton of innates, the CC that Wizard can give is really, really overpowered. And then if you get someone who can throw an enchantment or 2 on that Wizard, or an enchantment on that Wizard and just let him go to town, I think I don't see too much Elemental Barrage Wizard, which is okay. I've seen it once or twice, but most of the Wizards that I see are Battle Mage Wizards and are mainly CC Wizards and are just very, very good at getting the spells off quickly.
And I wanted to ask you one question about this too. As this is specifically targeting local park level where people are going to be trying this out. The reason that we've mentioned CC being so powerful is because there's only 4 people on that team. You are knocking down 25% of their effectiveness by iceballing one single person. In general, are people just allowed to call dead if they have been... Because, in big battle games, you'll see that at local park level, even kingdom level sometimes, you will have the option where you can just call dead and say, well, now I'm not dealing with that CC anymore.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Yes.
But then you run through your bench really quickly, and then you can have all 6 of your players dead in your bench.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you kill somebody or you get CC'd, you step off, someone else can come in, but you only got 2 people on your bench. So you can only do that twice, and then you just have nobody on the field anymore.
I am going to say that, like, just on a general level, that if you're a smaller park... Oh, I thought you were reaching over for the mic or something.
No. Jeff brought gummy bears for the people who can't see what's happening.
Yeah. That the benched mechanic is actually a really interesting mechanic to run just as a normal gameplay mechanic, not even just inside Phoenix League. You can even have it on an open field kind of thing, because what it does is it kind of creates this rolling action that keeps happening for the most part,
I love the bench. I think it's a fantastic mechanic.
I brought up the just being able to call dead for a very specific reason, and you covered half of it. Here's the other follow-up to that. So I have just called dead because I got CC'd by Air the Bard. And then I call my buddy that came in called dead because they were frozen by Godric the Wizard. So the bench is empty now. There's 4, the 4 people that are in are the only 4 that we have left. One more person dies because they get hit by Hogman. So the team's down to 3. And then your team scores. Now, when we come back in, when the point resets, because this is a little bit different than jugging as well, do we still only have 3 people, or do we get to come back in with all life counts are totally reset and everyone gets to just pop back up?
The round starts anew.
Yeah.
And
all your armor is back. All of your per life is back.
Yep.
Okay, and there are no positional lives for the team, unlike jugging where there's only 5 for each position or something like that, correct? The team doesn't have a life pool they're working with.
Correct.
So every single point, all of your per lives, all of everything. How about your per games? Is that for the entire length, or is there usually a refresh somewhere in the middle?
Halftime would allow for a refresh.
And that's usually, if you're going to first to 5 points, then it would be whoever gets to...
They moved the time in the official rules, didn't they?
It's a 15-minute rounds, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I ran them off of scores on the local level because honestly, it's just easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
It is.
When you're playing at the park, by the way, do not worry about setting up a field and just play.
Yeah, honestly, grab the 2 buckets.
You do not need to walk everything off to this specific. Just enjoy your park day. Don't make setting up the game a pain in the ass for your park because.
Well, and it's such a fun game. We played it this weekend, and we took the buckets, we took the ball, we went into the woods and just roughly marked it off. Didn't even really have hard boundaries and just said play, because the bench mechanic is fun. The volatile state is fun. And it gets you some reps playing the game, but you don't have to be super serious about it at park, and it's still a fun game.
Yeah.
So last Magic class.
Now, did we finish up on Wizard? Because I feel like we kind of side railed that.
Oh, I think Wizard's hands down the best caster.
Just take a piss load of CC and that.
A bunch of CCs, a bunch of innates, a bunch of ambulance, a bunch of extensions, and go to town.
Okay. And then...
Agree, disagree, guys? Anything else to add to that?
I disagree, but it's because of, I think Druid does what Wizard does, but better, because they're per life, specifically in Phoenix League. And that's the big thing. Same thing with Air. She's not going to experience a lot of her stuff because the per life is so much more valuable than a per refresh, because every minute and a half you're getting 15 heat weapons back, and 8 of your mins and whatever. Everything comes back every minute and a half. So I don't know. I just think Druid is better suited because of that particular function.
I mean, we run into the same problem as normal class games. I think with Druid is the versatility of the class is so high already that you can kind of move to something that another class can do inside of it and still specialize enough that it's still good enough to work with it as well. So like you're talking about the Icy Blast per life, effectively there you still have access to entangles and ice balls and things like that. So like I think I agree with you with the Druid on paper, at least.
I think the thing is the Druid I play with most of the time is just arching all the time, so I don't really get to see a lot of the
never cast. It's like a peasant
I know,
with
right?
a bow.
I know, right?
So
do you even step on the field?
Tell me more, both Paragon Druids, about how Druid is the best class in the entire game.
Yeah, it's
Stoneform is actually super helpful for Druid too in this game mode. Just being able to disrupt casts that are coming to you is super helpful.
So let's take the other class. So wrapping up, Druid's the best. Sure. The other classes I think can kind of be grouped here. So the classes that are going to be pretty predominantly melee focused, your barbarian, your warrior.
I think you can easily group these in armor classes. So you have the heavier ones with the paladin, anti-paladin, warrior,
barbarian.
No, sort of. They're kind of a bridge.
Mid. Do we have a middle armor class?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like you have like the 4 ups, you have the 2s and 3, and you have the less than. which I don't know that there's anything left now. We covered the magic classes.
So
less things
let's do
here.
the four. Let's do the 4-ups. Your high armor classes, and in general, again talking about a super high level here, you are going to see people that are wearing full armor most of the time.
Yeah, if you see a class with armor, I would just assume they have their max armor on.
Fair.
And praise the Lord, we're doing this at 10 o'clock at night, because Alabama heat, I'm already worried about it even at 10. But if we were doing this at noon or something, I was,
Yeah.
There will be a misting station for all of the warriors, and then a WD-40 station also for all of the warriors.
I think that at least from what little I've looked into and seen, that warrior is a really good class in general. The armor is there. The synergy inside its own self is good.
Explain the synergy inside its own self. What type of yoga shit did you just say at me? What does that mean?
So this is the thing that I think Assassin and Warrior probably do the best out of the martial classes, is that they have abilities inside their own class that work together. Right?
Okay.
The wicked flee, when I pursue, I shall overcome.
I don't remember the names of the actual abilities, but those are the incants. So the one that makes you come back alive, frozen, which is the wicked flee when I pursue, and then
True Grit.
Yeah, True Grit, and then I shall overcome, which I think is just overcome.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. That's it. Yeah. Those make it so that it's only 10 seconds that you're sitting. So if you know your bench is already dead, you can kind of interact that way.
You also can earn some field advantage if the other team pushes past you, ignoring you, or their wizard doesn't immediately just kill you, shatter you, or something like that. That can have its own sort of advantage. Same thing's true in battle games as well.
On top of with 6 points of armor and ancestral armor, you are having a hard time CCing them.
and if your wizard's good, they don't shatter you instantly. They wait till right before your CC is done, and then they
Correct.
shatter you.
Get the max time.
Yeah, I was actually talking about that earlier today. It's like, cool, you froze me and then killed me 3 seconds after. However, if you waited my full timer and my death count, you've extended it almost by half.
Yeah. Educate your newbies, everyone. This is a game of seconds.
I would say Warrior is pretty dang good. I like Warrior. I like Paladin a little better.
Yeah, I think so too.
The having the Oz is really good because you get 2 Oz per life.
Oh,
Like it's really good. And then having some Pro Mags is nice too. Warrior is super helpful. I'll take either of those. They're kind of my top tier for armor.
Yeah, I feel like Paladin.
And then
is
everything
like a half
else.
above, you know.
And then everything else is way below.
you know, I didn't think about this, but with awe and fear, if I was able to get an awe off on someone, they couldn't, and I was still alive, I could literally just walk towards the goal and my team could walk in and they could not move forward. They would have to go back as far to the corner as they could and then just dance at me or something.
I think the official thing is they have to skirt the edge till they're 20 feet away from you now.
Yeah.
I think. I could be wrong.
Oh, so they would just have to continue kind of moving. Yeah, that makes sense. So, what about the two, the Pally anti-Pally classes? Anything stand out about them? I mean, obviously they've got some control, which we've talked about is already really strong here.
So I'll take a little, and then I'll let them expand. So Paladin and anti-Paladin opening up, and depending upon where you're at, you were able to play them anyway as like Marauder and Raider or Crusader. Yeah. That's what it was, yeah. But their immunities, well, more specifically the Paladin's immunity, are very, very good on top of having the access to Pro Mag innately, and the 4 points of armor as well. And then if you can go pole or shield depending upon how good you are basically with that. But it allows you to push and honestly almost take out a bard just by being on the field.
Yes. And don't forget your extend immunity as Paladin too.
Oh yeah, no, I keep.
So you're immune, and you give your Pro Mag to somebody, and then you give your extend immunity to somebody else, and now 3/4 of your team are on the field. The bard can't do a thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
we actually saw when your team came down how effective a single polearm can be. Now we did in defense of the teams that were at this. This was kind of a put together last minute thing. It wasn't necessarily on the schedule, so we didn't have a lot of organized teams coming. But even with that, having a single polearm on your team on the field was able to get a lot of positional advantage when the other teams did not have that polearm to kind of counter it.
Well, range is very good.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing too. If you have an archer that's just half drawn and everyone's scared of it, and the other team doesn't have another archer, like it's kind of the same thing. You're exerting a range of control that the other team just can't.
Yeah, I remember one of our teams. I don't remember who it was.
It's Thunderbush. If you're talking about
Thunderbush
the
just had his
gym bag,
never-ending bag of throwies, and was literally just walking forward. It looked like one of the little Rube Goldberg machines of throwing throwies out. There was probably 100 on the field at one point. But yeah, just having something like that is, of course, going to be better. So our middling classes, then, all of the rest of the stuff, your scouts, your barbarians, your
assassins.
Assassins. Things that they may have some abilities. Of course, anything CC, we don't even need to discuss. We already know that's going to be good. Do they have anything, any of those classes have anything that really stands out meta-wise?
One of the good strats that some teams will run is just get as much armor on the field as they can. And so if that is your strat, having more armor is better. Some Phoenix League rules will limit the number of classes that you can have. So, right, if you're running this strat, you want, as many warriors as you can field. And then when it was closed, as many paladins and anti-paladins. But if you didn't have the knights, then your barbarians, your scouts become a little bit more valuable. With the unlimited, and you can technically run 6 warriors if you want, that doesn't quite make up for it. I do think assassin out of those has a place. But like anti-paladin, I wouldn't play. Scout, I wouldn't play. Monk, I wouldn't play. If you're going to play monk, just go play paladin. The armor is just so worth it. That extra point is going to be significantly better, like pally or anti-pally, over all of those other ones, in my opinion.
So walk me through this. Are there any must-have or must-know combos for anybody that's going to play this? For anybody who hasn't like deeply explored their class or explored the mechanics of any of our games, is there any like do this then do this that always works? So that's typically pretty beneficial. Because I know Teflon's mentioned the what is it, freeze and shatter.
I mean that's there, but realistically the freeze is just all you need to do in Phoenix League.
Aaron and I played together probably as many games as any other two folks have ever played Phoenix League competitively before. And we do quite well with her controlling the field, verbally speaking, and me threatening with range at a high rate of fire. And when we do that, we can control very large sections of an entire field, I guess is the best way to put that. She probably has some insight on how she actually plays her bard character, or how I do anyway. I'll let her explain that.
Absolutely. Area denial. You mentioned the pole arm being a good thing, is a huge tool on the Phoenix League field. Being able to position the team, your team, in a aggressive manner and push their team at a position that they don't want to be in is going to be very strong. And CC is going to facilitate that 90% of the time. Pole arms, bows, anything that people don't want to naturally rush. If you're a flow fighter, people probably gonna shoot you.
Yes, they will.
Yes. But yeah, you want to make yourself not easy to knock over, I guess is to say so. But to really truly get into the overarching meta of the game and answer the combo question, I think you need to look at every single class in the game as taking varying levels of the 4 most important things in Phoenix League, which would be CC, armor, enchantments, and kill potential. And so you can rank all of the magic classes by that. Which of those provide the most, right? So healer is going to provide a little bit of CC, but a lot of enchantment. And that's what makes kill potential is very strong. That's what makes wizard so good. Druid has kill potential and CC and enchantments. You see where that's going.
And damage.
And
damage.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Yeah. It's a problem.
My favorite thing the V9 committee ever did was their April Fool's post where they just said Druid had been removed from the game.
The thing about Druid is it literally does all the other classes better than their own class. You're right.
Currently,
it's a better archer. It's a better wizard. It's a better assassin.
It's a better scout.
Better scout. Yep.
So, Eric, to follow up on what you were saying, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
go for it.
I'm going to keep on. Eric, to follow up on what you had said, when we're evaluating these 4 things, then we're not looking for a golden combo like, oh, I want to pick this class and this class so that I can use this ability and you can use this ability. We're looking for combos that work well with those 4 things that we're trying to balance out here. Or if we're making a theme team that is specifically meant to be overloaded in one of those, that we're purposefully overloading them.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So that would probably shape a lot of our words a little better in people's minds up to this point. You know, Nate had mentioned armor being an on-field strategy, and going all in on one of those things could be very, very strong. Except for enchantments.
Yeah, I had heard
they can be dispelled.
Yeah. I had heard Hogman refer to your team as a kind of a blue deck in Magic, that you have quite a bit of control and counter, and that's kind of your strategy. One of the things that your team did, since we are so very, very new to this here in Winter's Edge, is you actually posted up some examples of some things that you go in with, some spell lists that you go in with, and some just very light strategies and things like that, and then invited the kingdom to ask you questions if they had any about why certain things were done. And that's kind of what spawned this conversation that we're having right now, is we realize that there may be other kingdoms out here that are in the same thing. So this makes sense. We would be going in and the 6 of us would be saying, we want to do a heavy CC team. So we're going to take classes that we know we can do that, or an armor team, or a kill potential team. You know, a pole arm, a bow, some throwies on on certain classes, because that's what we're trying to do. We go in and it's like, hi, I'm Flo. I'm going to be legging everyone the entire time. If I'm doing anything but legging people, I'm doing it wrong, because that's what Flo is going to be doing this entire game.
Perfect.
By the way, this is the triad strategy for jugging. If you ever face us in jugging, we're just going to leg you.
No, well, you might now, but it was just let Flo go kill his corner, and if he wins, then I run around to Flo's side to go score the point.
That's true.
That's it.
People always put their youngest, newest player on flail, and I loved it.
So who are the triads putting on flail now?
Still Flo.
No, I'm still the person on flail. It's that other people, the opponents, would always put their least experienced people on flail, and then I just ate them alive.
Well, so I want to ask a question that's maybe relevant to this upcoming event, and that is, for anybody who's not done this before, who's thinking about fielding a team, what's the best piece of advice you can give them if they're scared or if they think they're not going to be good enough? What's the best piece of advice for those teams?
Do it anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to lose. I mean, like it is a lot of fun. And if you remember back to the first time you played Amtgard and how fast paced you thought it was, when it really wasn't, because your teammates and park mates were taking it easy on you there, it really is quick and fast paced, and it is amazing class gaming. I don't know how else to put it. If you like the game of Amtgard, not because you just enjoy stick fighting, if you enjoy a League of Legends game where there's spell casting and it's a 5v5 or 4v4 on the field, and you enjoy that kind of MOBA, Phoenix League offers that in the Amtgard rule set, and it is so much fun.
It really sportifies the class game set, I think. And
correct.
So if you're looking for more of a sport-like feel, this is probably inside the class system. This is probably the game to do.
Yeah, I mean, Cabbage pointed this out a long time ago to me. Cabbage is very much one of those you fail 100% of the ventures that you never try sort of person. But we live in a society where we're taught if you don't win, you're horrible or something like that. And Cabbage said this to one of our newer people out at the park. I say new, like first year that they had been out. Not the last Kingdom event that we went to, but the Kingdom event before that. The third battle game that you'd played, did you win or lose? Of course, you can't answer that because it didn't matter. right? You had fun. You went out there, you had a great time, and that's what this is about as well. You know, if you lose, you lose. You can learn quite a bit from watching the teams that won, and that's true for Battle Games or Phoenix League. But the point is, we want to go out there and we want to have a good time. And I think that this represented a really, really good time, that first little jaunt for our kingdom. And let's be honest, you guys kind of rolled through most everyone. We were definitely not prepared for that. But even with that, the audience was having a great time. Cabbage was out there making bets with our in-game currency, our fake little crystal currency.
Yep. I was also flavor blasted like a Dorito, and like I was just marking it up. It was a good time.
But yeah, I mean, we had decided just to the crystals were part of this event, but you could hand them out just for that, to have there's no real money being exchanged, right? This is just like, oh yeah, I'm exchanging crystals for
you're
LARPing
later. Yeah, you're LARPing. That's exactly right.
Can't place prop bets, huh?
No, we can't place. I'm not allowed to say on our internet show that you can place prop bets at the Winter's Edge event,
right?
Or imply in any way that is the case. But yeah, go out and have fun is really what I was worried about. A lot of people don't, they'll go and join any battle game, but then when you present something like this to them, they go, well, we can't lose. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I think people get caught up on the competitive aspect of Phoenix League, which it is a highly competitive game, don't get me wrong, but that doesn't mean it
can be.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah, it can't be played for fun also. Like, it definitely can be. It was probably when I brought Phoenix League to Radiant Valley, I did put the rope out. I even put cones at every 20 feet on one of the games, but the first one was just rope and just buckets and just a ball. And because we were a smaller park, I think I had it as 3 active and 1 on the bench. I think we had 8 players, right? And so it put the bench mechanic and the rotation of mechanics that are very good in a smaller park, I believe. And B, it kind of got like that first little bit of like reintroducing magic classes and stuff like that to Radiant Valley in a format that they could hold on to, because it was a quote-unquote competitive format. Even though we didn't play competitively, we had fun with it. It was kind of like that objective feel, that kind of sport-ish feel. So if that's your park, I still think that even if you have like tempers or something like that, that as long as you manage that with a reeve or something like that, if you need to, then it's good.
Subway was my favorite for that when you ran that, because one of our brand new people, his name's Quiver at the time, he's just now started coming back out. Subway told him just to shoot one person on the field. Every time they came in, abandon everything that he was doing and go shoot that one person. And it was Patches, who we've had on the show before. Patches, I love you. Yeah, you know exactly what it is. So this was great because Quiver had no idea what the rules of the game were or anything. He just knew that he shot Patches. And he hit him with the first arrow every time for 12 lives in a row, over and over again, to the point where Patches is he steps onto the field and then just steps back out and puts his weapon over his head because he's already been hit.
Actually, forgot one of the questions. Go ahead.
Every single time, the entire field just, yeah, is wonderful.
Well, we've go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. No, you're good. One of the questions I had, because I couldn't remember the answer off the top, you had mentioned like the warder or enchantment druid or something like that, stepping on to enchant your player you want it with whatever, right? And then stepping off. Are they calling dead, or can you purposely switch places with a person on the bench?
There's an incant, and it's I return to the bench, and I don't remember if it's 3 times or 5 times.
Gotcha. Okay.
3 times.
Yeah. So they'll come out and enchant me with Gollum, and then say I return to the bench 3 times. So they can step onto the bench, and then
now can you
somebody else
that?
can come out.
Is
not that I'm
not the incantation for the bench, but you can switch Gollum.
Is there anything I can do while I'm on the bench if I'm not dead?
Good question, because the answer is I think yes, unless they.
The answer is yes. I'm being a shill here.
It is. I don't remember what it is because I don't get that
charge,
function.
You can use the recharge.
Oh, I can charge. Yeah.
Dyer's like, I don't die. I don't know.
I don't-
I don't
Yes,
die, peasants.
I go on the
You
field,
can
I score the
totally-
points, I leave. I am confused.
after you, if you're on the bench, after your death count is finished and you are on the bench waiting to go onto the field, you can charge whatever incants and abilities that you have.
Okay.
Makes sense. Are there
Bowmen have a denial
Ooh.
aspect. Yeah, the whole thing. The whole thing for me as a bowman on that field is not necessarily to lay down damage, but it's actually to stop somebody from running in and scoring because they're volatile and I can pick them off at range very, very easily. And so anyway, I
That
don't
make sense.
Yeah.
A bowman has a good reason to not come in onto the field
Yeah.
because they just wait for that person to expose themselves and then they step on, peg them with an arrow, and just fade into the bushes.
Well, and that was going to be you were asking earlier for the piece of advice. Phoenix League is a hyper aggressive game. You do not need to spend the resources or a person to play goalie, as it were.
Right.
Generally, your team's going to be better pushing forward. And your people on the bench, their job is goalie. Because if someone dies and steps off and your bench player is coming on, that means the other team is probably moving the ball up. Then that person coming on gets to play goalie.
Yeah.
One of the things I see a lot of people do is they're at the very beginning of the game, they just put the poleman right on the, on the bucket. And that's just not, in general, not going to be a good strategy for you.
Yeah. You had mentioned area denial, and that's not just specifically with spells or something. Polearm has a certain area it threatens. Bows have a certain area they threaten, which also backs up the idea that the bowman doesn't have to come in if they're a good shot, right? They can kind of be 20, 30 feet behind the team.
I'll sit in the box.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll sit in the box. There'll be two people on the field, and I'm completely okay with that because when they think they have everything in good shape, they come charging in. If they don't have any defense, I can come out alive and pick them off as they're rushing to the goal.
Absolutely.
And one thing that didn't get mentioned here either, there are boxes associated with where your bench is. There's boxes associated right on the inside of the field with where people are allowed to step on. You'll be able to see that in all of the rules that we'll be linking down below. They have some really good diagrams on how they, and there's a video on how to play on that same site that lists the rules that who was it? V9 Onejo put together.
Onejo.
Yeah. So thank you, Onejo, for all of that.
I guess, is there anything that you guys want to address for any part of, I guess, Phoenix League or anything like that?
I guess I would say, for us at least, a lot. We spend as much time before the game prepping, and that's a key to our success as it is actually being good on the field. And the reason I say that is for people who are like, oh, but I'm not necessarily the best class gamer. That's okay. If you have a team that can min-max, if you have a team that's willing to sit down and go to dinner and spend some time figuring out how you're going to work well together, you can overcome teams that are better than you by your prep work and the way that you go into the match. So take encouragement in that. Like it's for us, at least, we really enjoy the way you're doing this. So I'm doing this. Let's figure out the best way. What's the strategy and kind of go from there.
And don't be afraid to play with it on that end of things, right? When you're talking about those combos earlier, don't be afraid to take Grasping Tentacles as a druid and use Drag Below with your wizard. Play with that and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like it didn't work for us. That doesn't mean that it's not going to work for you.
Very true.
Go out and, just play the game how you want to play it. You will be surprised. My druid came about because I played a terrible season of Archer. And it spawned a whole new way to play that entire class. You never know what you're going to come up with. Try those weird ass little things.
Yeah,
you just
like,
don't.
Legitimately, yours is one of my favorite, like, kind of rise to fame and as a class kind of idea, right? Like, your build is completely off from anyone had made lists before, basically, right? So, like,
yeah.
And the meta of V8 was already pretty established, if I understand, by the time you had made your kind of progress in it. So, like, having a very established meta and still being able to pull a new list that can rock it is kind of awesome.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it was Phoenix League that put that together. I had to solve the same problem that Air has. I could not, as an archer, get through the AA that the Warriors had when they were coming out. Archer they can't do anything about that. So I had to, figure out a different way to deal with that, and Dispel and Ice Balls do it.
Hogman mentioned this on the Winner's Edge board, and I just want to say it here on the podcast as well. This is a really good opportunity for people to evaluate paragons as well. You're in a competitive environment. You are, as mentioned here, aggression is usually going to be the winning strategy. Teams that kind of sit back, and there's different forms of aggression, of course, but teams that kind of sit back and try to play goalie usually aren't going to do as well. So you really get a chance to see, because this is a small stage format, you really get a chance to see people shine. And we got to see that in this past one. Madness was one of the people that was on your team and was doing an amazing job, just murdering the entire field. The other thing too, and this kind of got mentioned, but I really wanted to emphasize it, find a buddy to work with. Someone that's going to be on your team, and it doesn't have to be in Phoenix League. The next time you go into a battle game, like Hogman and Godric said, just say, hey, I'm going to take this in my spell list. You take these things so that we can see how they work together, and then you two just work really closely together for that regular battle game at your park. See how things go. Learn what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. And before any of you listening talk about not being able to min-max or something like that, I have sit at events and listened to you talk about your D&D characters. Every single one of you can min-max. Do not use an excuse like that. Go talk to other people that really like Phoenix League too. See if you find some combos that they've used. Is there a board somewhere that people that are interested in learning more about Phoenix League can go to? Is there a Facebook group for it or something?
Not that I'm aware of.
We should start a Facebook group. I mean, not me, but other people should start a Facebook group for it.
It is a game format that has its own challenges, and I think you're probably correct in that it's warranted. I mean, unlike any other game, God love our champions. Sometimes you build a game and maybe it's not balanced, but this is as balanced as it gets, because anybody can choose what they want. Both sides of the field are equal. Nobody has any kind of weird whatever. So it's a very good way to hone your skills as a player in this format. They put that on display. The Paragon thing.
Yeah.
I really can't say that enough. There, your coaches or your mentors or the other Paragons, if you're gunning for Paragon, are going to be able to see you on this. The most they're ever going to be away from you is 80 feet. Unlike at a kingdom battle, which are these huge fields with 100 people, and there are 8 people in this field at a time. I promise you, your folks will be able to see you. If you want Paragon, this is a great way to put yourself on display.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and it's a great way to show up too. At least when we were coming up, there was one team, Stack Deck, very, very good. And if you were wanting to, prove your worth, trying to push for Paragon, it was go up against Stack Deck. Right? Like if you could actually, it was a meme, but like Dyer and Air's team, they were like the first team nationally to score on Stack Deck, right? Like they went in an incredible amount of time without even getting scored on. And so them being able to score on the good team showed, they were able to strut their stuff, and so this is an opportunity. If you're pushing for high level, you want to get those order of the battles, you want to get those, the Paragon in your classes, show up, beat some kids, and show what you got. Beat some kids, show what you got.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at about the time in the show where we start to wind things down. Before we do that, we typically ask for a fun, crazy, whatever story. Do you have any memorable Phoenix League moments where you overcame some big challenge or anything like that is worth telling? Maybe dig into that story about scoring on a Stack Deck a little more.
Yes, I have a pretty good story I'd like to share.
Cool.
There was one game, Hogman and my team beat Stack Deck. It was probably the best day of Amp-Guard I've ever had. And there was a single moment in that game where Hogman and I were the only two of our team left on the field. and stack deck had a paladin left on the field. And I'm playing a bard, and I can't do anything to a paladin.
You could
Nothing.
make polite conversation.
The paladin had me legs and dead to rights, and I knew Hogman had to get that ball into the goal. Was it the game-winning point? I don't remember. But
Of course it was. It was. It was.
100%.
Absolutely. I can't believe you don't remember this.
I looked at that paladin square in the eyes, and I casted terror on him, which he is completely immune to. But my conviction was so strong that I convinced him, and he's still a great friend of mine, but he's probably still terrified to this day. But Hogman was able to run the ball in because I convinced him he was terrified, even though he was immune to it. Is it cheesy? Maybe a little bit, but the best part is listening to his teammates yell at him that you're immune to that while Hogman sinks the ball.
I was going to say, it's not your job to make sure that they understand what they're immune to or not.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. I want to take a moment, too, as we always do at the end of the show, to thank all of our Patreons and everyone who supports the show in any way. If you'd like to support what we do, you can find all of the links below. If you'd like to become a Patreon, we would like that. We are really bad at breaking equipment.
No, we're really good at breaking
equipment. We're really good at breaking equipment, I guess. All of the links to Phoenix League will be down on the bottom as well. And is there anything specifically that any of you would like to promote that's coming up that we could also link in the description below?
At the Keep event, Goddard doesn't even know about this yet. We're going to have the Paragon's Pit for Errant Dawn. And effectively, we're just going to put out a Phoenix League field, and it's pickup games, bring your own team, whatever you'd like to do. No Reeves, just come play. Bring, awesome. Get your other Paragons in your kingdom, come out, watch a game, play against you, whatever it might be. But this is your opportunity as a Paragon or a would-be Paragon to come in and stretch your stuff and do what you want to do at the Keep level, where there will be absolutely a whole lot of very talented class gamers.
Awesome.
And that Errant Dawn team will probably have 5 of 6, if not 6 of 6 on their field will be Paragons. So it's a good team to come see how you do against.
Yeah, that seems really interesting. We'll put links to Keep stuff below as well.
My man.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having us. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or Spotify to get notified about new episodes. And make sure to follow us on Facebook for announcements and more.